ആലയം കരുണാലയം നമാമി ഭഗവത്പാദശങ്കരം ലോകശങ്കരം. ആരൂഢപ്രൗഢവേഗപ്രവിചിതപവനം തുംഗതുംഗം തുരംഗം ചേലം നീലം വസാന കരതലവിലസത്കാണ്ഡകോദണ്ഡദണ്ഡ രാഗദ്വേഷാദി നാനാവിധമൃഗപടലീ ഭീതികൃദ്ഭൂതഭർത്ത കുറുവൻ ആഖേടലീലാം പരിലസതു മനഃകാനനേ മാമകീനേ. The most beloved and respected chairman of the today's session, the great Vedic scholar Dr. K.N. Poti, today's chief guest, the veteran linguist and a great scholar in Kerala arts, the recipient of the Rashtrapati Puraskar, Professor Prabodhachandran Nair, Dr. Pradeep Jodi, who is comparing this program, who is the trustee of Kantaloor Sabha, who welcomed the audience, Shri Madhavan Nambudiri, Vice President of the Kantaloor Sabha, Dr. Vanaja, my colleague in Sanskrit, who is working as a assistant professor in Vimala College, Dr. G. Purnima, again one of my colleagues, who is working as assistant professor in Sri Sankarajayanti University, Dr. Ajitan, the faculty member of Kantaloor Shala, above all Dr. Sarita Maheshwaran, who performed the Sangeeta Saparya to Shankaracharya, who is the head of the Department of Sahitya in Tirupati Government Sanskrit College, members of Kantaloor Shala and Sabha, the learned scholars and participants who are present in the online platform of Kantaloor Shala today. I welcome all of you and express my pranams. My predecessors today in the program, they spoke at length on Shankara, his various contributions in literature and also in philosophy, and his practical philosophy, and his contribution for national integration, and all such areas of contributions to Shankara. Today, the Kantaloor Sabha and Shala, they jointly asked me to deliver a talk on Shankara, which is every year we are conducting. Last year we have started. That is the International Commemoration, Sri Shankara Commemoration Lecture. And the topic we have selected is Brahmavidya, the problems of communication. And Shankara, based on that, Shankara, what he speaks on self and Maya, and also on ethics. See, without much introduction, because my predecessors, as I told you, that they have had a talk at length and gave a proper introduction to the subject. So, with a whole what we call my humbleness, I may be permitted to start my lecture. Jagadguru Adi Shankaracharya, the highest intellectual the world has ever produced, was unique in the history of thought, as he combined himself the best quality of a poet, philosopher, logician, sahridaya, devotee, a mystic, interpreter, commentator, religious reformer, and an organizer. He is a scholar with all this, endowed with all these qualities. He was the architect of monistic system of philosophy, and hence that system of thought is named after him. The popularity and recognition in the system of Indian metaphysics went to the extent of using the word Vedanta as a synonym of Advaita Vedanta, or rather the better known Shankara Vedanta. Shankara never refuted totally any of the doctrines preached by his predecessors, but he denied the ultimate reality of all other doctrines. All the systems of the Indian philosophy were given the status by Shankara, the status of upaya is a means, not the goal. Upaya in Shankara philosophy, so as to reach the final goal, that is Advaita. He was the most towering personality of Indian philosophy. He is an ascetic of ascetics. He is a philosopher of philosophers, poet of poets, the reformer of reformers, the commentator of commentators, even Acharya of Acharyas. Shankara throws behind him all the rishis and philosophers of the world behind him. Thus, the tribute goes to Shankara thus: Nastaumitam vyasam asheshamartham samyang na sutrairapiyo babandha vinapi taihi sangradhitakhilartham Sri Shankaram Naumi. Even though Bharatavarsha has given birth to several acharyas, only the name of this youth was associated with the honorary titles of Jagadguru and Bhagavatpada. No other acharya has entitled with such titles. Tradition in Kerala believes that Shankara is an incarnation of Vadakanatha, that is Lord Shiva, who gave a boon to Shivaguru, a childless Nambudiri, Brahmin of Kaipilli Mana, and belongs to Kaladi. The Vadakanatha or Uttaresha, rather in Sanskrit, the temple is situated in the heart of the city of Trishivapura. This is a modern Thrissur. And 4 ancient madhams of the disciples of Shankara, all these things show the close connection of the Thrissur city to the history of Shankara's life. The mortal remains of Shankara is said to be kept inside the famous temple where at present we can see the installation of Shankha and Chakra, and also a temple of Adi Shankara inside the Vadakanatha temple. As per available documents, most of the researchers arrived at the conclusion that Sri Shankara lived in between 788 to 820 AD. According to the famous verse, Ashtame Sarvavedajnaha, Dwadashe Sarvashastragaha, Shodashe Kritavan Bhashyam, Dvatrimse Munirabhyagat. According to this sloga, the Acharya completed his Prasthanatraya Bhashya by the age of 16. And during the second half of his lifetime, extending a period of 16 years, Shankaracharya went on foot throughout the length and breadth of the Bharatavarsha and conquered almost all his opponents like Mandana Mishra in the field and in the field of darshanas, and made them his foremost disciples. Actually, impelled by his strong sense of nationalism, he established several matams in different parts of the country, among which 4 are to be specially mentioned. They are at Sringeri in south, Puri in the east, Dwaraka in the west, and Badrinath in the north. In all these matams, we can see his disciples without any break, even after 1200 years. Here in Kerala, Acharya started several matams through his disciples, and among them, the 4 matams, Vadakke Madham, Tekke Madham, Naduvil Madham, and Idayil Madham at Trichur needs special reference. Even today, we can see the followers of Shankara in these madhams. Apart from his magnum opus, Prasthanatraya Bhashya, Shankara wrote several Prakarana Granthas like Viveka Chudamani, Upadesha Sahasri, Atmabodha, Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Sangraha, etc. Several other minor Prakarana Granthas to educate the ordinary people about his non-dualistic philosophy, which has gone deeper in his own bhashyas. It is very tough in bhashyas to follow it, understand it. Systematically, scientifically, they have to study the Shastras. But for ordinary people, he has written for the beginners. He has written the Prakarana Granthas of the so-called Atmabodha, etc. In all these works, the mentioned works, in all these works, Shankara has in crisp, simple language and in subtle logic elucidated the relation of the self and the Brahman, the supreme reality. Simple and attractive illustrations of Advaitic themes, the oneness of Jiva and Paramatma, and the unreality of the things in the world are well explained in these texts with beautiful drishtantas. Among the voluminous of his literature, we can come across treatises on Mantra Shastra, Sabarya Hridaya, and Prapanchasara actually belong to this group. Shankara, the great mystic, wrote a large number of devotional poems. The above mentioned Tantra Shastra texts and Stotra Kavyas, Tantra Shastra texts and Stotra Kavyas, written by him, give the clue to the fact that he believed in the due performance of worship and rites as an essential step for the fact that he believed in the due performance of worship and rites as an essential step for the attainment of Nirgunopasana. It is a step for the Nirgunopasana as a way, as a path, and thereby self-realization. The pragmatic genius that he was, Shankara understood the limitations of the common man in assimilating and practicing Advaitic principles. Acharya knew very well that his scholarly Shastric works in the form of bhashyas, which are the Nikashobalas, touchstones, has nothing to do with the ordinary people. here. So, hence he wrote stotras, as told by Naranan Poti and also our Prabodhan sir, both they have explained that. So, for the common man to achieve gradual progress through bhakti as more congenial and practical, but even for bhakti, a canon is absolutely necessary as a guard against degeneracy. See, among his devotional poems, we can see 2 or 3 types of poems. The first one is Adhyatma Stotras, that is of super variety. That goes very closely to the Prakarana Granthas. If you take Viveka Chudamani or Atmabodha along with Govindashtaka or such thing, Stotra Kavyas, is more or less same, because when you take Govindashtakam, the famous Stotra Kavya of the work of Shankara, there you can see Satyam, it begins like this. Satyam Jnanamanandam Nityamanagasham Punaragasham Goshta Pranghanalolam Anayasam Punarayasam Maya Kalpitananagaram Bhuvanagaram Kshmamanathamanatham Pranamata Govindam Paramanandam. See, the all attributes to the Brahman are given as a chain. So it is nothing but a Vedanta text. So we can call such types of stotras as Adhyatma stotras. So Nirmalam, Nirvikalpam, Niragaram, Ongaragamyam, such Vishnu stotras are there. I have no time to explain those stotras, so I have to enter into my subject. So there are several stotras of that type. You know it very well. So they are Adhyatma stotras. And there is another variety of stotras like Saundar Lahari and like that. There you can, even though there is Shastra elements of Tantra Shastra are embedded in that Stotra Kavya, but you can see beautiful descriptions of with a clear form of the goddess. Kodal Kanji Dama Karikala Bhakumbhastananada Parikshina Madhye Parinata Sharachandravadana Dhanur Banan Pasam Srinimabidadhana Karatalehi Sarat Josna Suddham Sashi Yuta Jada Judamagudam. Like that, several stotras are there. That type of stotras are there. So there are several types of these stotras. It is meant for different type of bhaktas. Prakrita Bhakta, Madhyama Bhakta, Uttama Bhakta. There are 3 varieties of bhaktas being classified in Puranas like Bhagavata. Shankara also keep this in mind, and he the topmost variety is for the superior the bhaktas, so-called the Uttama Bhaktas, that is Adhyatma Stotras. They can easily enter into the Adhyatma field without any difficulty. Because they have achieved those qualities. And the next one, Madhyama, and the other, we never call Adhama, it is only Prakrita. Prakrita Bhakta, Madhyama Bhakta, and Uttama Bhakta. So, these Prakrita Bhaktas is the Prakriti Bhaktas. Their nature is purely worldly. For worldly achievements, they go to the temple, they pray to the god, and like that. They want material benefits. Such people, very lower that cadre of the bhaktas. So, this type of, so in all these things, Shankara has taken much care for gradual progress through bhakti as more congenial and practical for ordinary people. But even for bhakti, a canon is absolutely necessary as a guard against degeneracy. That this is kept in mind by Shankara while he was composing stotras. Now, coming to the subject, what is the crux of the Shankara's Advaita Vedanta? This entire universe consists of two categories, Kshetra and Kshetrajna. Kshetra and Kshetrajna. The inanimate and animate. Kshetra is Jiva. Kshetrajna is Jiva. And his activities. So, Kshetrajna is Jiva. All his activities have the single purpose of getting happiness and avoiding grief. He does not always succeed. On the other hand, he gets inescapably enmeshed in the web created by himself. Shastra says that his basic error is that he considers himself to be the body and searches for happiness outside, even though, in fact, he is actually bliss himself. That he does not know, this is his avidya, and mistaking the body for himself is the adhyasa. So he does not know that this is his avidya. So this is his avidya, and also he is mistaking the body for himself is his adhyasa. So how I am not the body? If you ask like that, in deep sleep, that is sushupti, you have no connection with the body, etc., and you enjoy your own natural bliss. It is a natural bliss. Then why do I miss it while awake? In sushupti, I am getting this bliss. But when I am awake, how I miss it, that bliss, that ananda? It is because you commit the mistake of considering yourself as the body. Why do I commit this mistake? That is a question. It is because you do not know who you are and when you are totally free from the body, etc. Then who am I? This question arises. Then the answer is, you are Brahman. That's what Shankara says. You are Brahman. What is Brahman? Then the answer is very, very simple. It is the material cause of this whole universe, including your body. How do I understand that I am Brahman? Then says, the answer is, Brahman is Satyam, that is unchanging, Jnanam, that stuff which takes the form of various knowledge, like this is pot, this is mat, etc., such type of knowledge, while remaining unchanging in itself, and Anandam, that is unlimited in every sense of the word. The universe is asatyam, that is changing, just opposite to all these things. The universe is asatyam, what we are seeing with our eye. This we sense. The universe is asatyam, changing, and jadam, that is inert, and sandam, that is limited, unlike Brahman. It is limited, unlike Brahman. Though it is not itself benefit of Brahman, the very nature of Brahman is Anandam, that is bliss. It is one and only one because of its Jnana. You mean to say that I am this Brahman? Yes, you are Brahman. Then how? You are yourself Satyam, Jnanam, and Anandam in deep sleep. You enjoy all these things in your deep sleep, Sushupti. Then why do I miss this bliss while awake? Because you wrongly think that you are the body. Do you mean to say that I will never miss it if I avoid this mistake? Exactly. This is called self-realization. How do it come about? How does it come about? It begins with where this type of knowledge, it starts to come dawn in our mind. The Guru answers, one should give up asuri gunas and cultivate daivi gunas. He should desire worldly desires only within the ambit of dharma. He should desire only such things which comes under the ambit of dharma, not adharma. That is ethics. Later on, he should give up worldly desire and do only nishkama karma with a purified mind. Once you do your dharma, pray for your desires or do for your desires, your deeds. If it is according to dharma, automatically, slowly, it will develop to a kind of nishkama bodha, nishkama quality with a purified mind. Then through shastra shravana, manana and nididhyasana, ultimately one leads to self-realization. So this is the gradual process. It is clear that dharma or ethics is the first and the foremost foundation stone of the final goal of life, that is self-realization. Shankara's definition of God, it makes clear that according to him, God is not an entity numerically different from the absolute, but is in essence identical with the absolute. Thus, Shankara states, Brahman conditioned by the name and form, limiting adjuncts, born of avidya, become God, like the all-pervading universal space limited by jar. So, Shankara's attitude towards or his principle, his doctrine regarding the God, the concept of God is like this. India is very sound in ethical traditions of thousands of years. In India, ethical problems have been approached in relation to all the fundamental issues of life and society, and so they are mixed up with metaphysical, social and axiological problems. Ethics in India is depend upon a view of life, that is darshana, born of tradition, reflection and insight. So tradition, reflection and insight. It is based on values. Monier Williams says that Shankara is one of the greatest religious leaders that India has ever produced. This consideration is due to Shankara's way of life. So, actually, Shankara's monastic interpretation of Vedanta has been considered as the illusionistic monism by scholars like Charissa Moore, like that. So many people are there, followers of that. This consideration is due to Shankara's way of life, his criticism of karma kanda, the path of actions, his analysis of avidya, that is of ignorance, and adhyasa, that is superimposition of the individual, and the doctrine of Maya as discussed by the writers of the Vedantic tradition. But the commentaries of Shankara on Prasthanatraya did not accord to his remark of illusionism. This wrong notion might be the result of the importance given to the said concepts by the historians of Indian philosophy, neglecting the other side of the works of Shankara. So, rather unsignificant and misinterpreted concept Maya has been given undue importance and significance in Shankara's philosophy by the historians of, not only merely historians, philosophers, those who have commented upon or interpreted upon Shankara's philosophy, they have given such ideas. The author of A History of Indian Philosophy, S.N. Dasgupta, states that Shankara never tries to prove that the world is Maya, but accepts it as an indisputable. Shankara does not say that the world is unreal. That is very important. Nowadays, all the people, normally, a majority of the people, when those who deal with Indian philosophy, especially Shankara Vedanta, they say that Shankara told that the entire world is a Maya, unreal thing. But Shankara does not say that the world is unreal. But on the other hand, the experience in the world and what we perceive around us cease to exist after some time. This is the nature of the world. It is not unreal. For some time it is real, but not permanently real. In our external conditions, everything around us is real, but at the same time, the external world around us changes from time to time, and ultimately, at one time, it ceases. It does not mean that the world is unreal. Shankara never told that the world is unreal or Maya, but its appearance of multiplicity changes and vanishes after some time. Hence, the crux of the Advaita Vedanta is that the world's appearance is false, illusion and momentary, but not the actual world, which is the effect of Brahman. In Upanishad passages like Sarvam Khalidam Brahma, the entire universe comes under that. So how you can say it is unreal? When you say whatever you see, whatever you hear, and whatever you smell, all the Vishayas, all Sarvam Khalidam Brahma, when you say everything included in that. So you cannot say that the world is unreal. Shankara's attempt is not to prove the unreality of the world, but to enlighten the meaning of the Upanishad passages, which gives the final emancipation. There is much debate on Adhyasa and Avidya in Shankara's commentaries, but not on illusion, Maya. Whether Maya can be really translated to illusion, I don't know. And it is a poor translation for Maya. But still, if you take it granted like that, the word Maya is not used by Shankara in that sense. The historians of Indian philosophy have allotted more pages. Several pages they devoted for the concept and the nature of Maya. But they bestowed their attention very little to examine critically the difference between Maya, Adhyasa and Avidya. The well-known Indian philosophers like Paul Deussen, Madhavananda, K. Radhakrishnan, T.M.P. Mahadevan, Gangadhar Jha, like A.G. Krishnavariyar, the present philosophers like Professor Muraleemadhavan, T.M.P. Mahadevan and Balasubramaniam, such great scholars especially, A.G. Krishnavariyar, they never discussed the Maya as a separate doctrine of significance. That is to be noted carefully. It is quite unfortunate that the system of Shankara Vedanta has been discussed keeping in view the doctrine of Maya and the status of the empirical world. Based on this, they derived the explanations and the conclusions of pessimistic nature. The entire world is a Maya. Through Maya you approach Advaita Vedanta. So it is a pessimistic approach and a pessimistic nature, and also viewed the many sides and aspects of life and thought in that way. Strictly speaking, it is one side of the subject matter of Advaita Vedanta. Rather, it is only one of the cornerstones of the entire system. It is to be stated that it is only a view that developed on the basis of taking some words, sentences and examples, avoiding and forgetting the major chunk of literature on Advaita Vedanta by Shankara that advocated on optimistic view of life, an ethical code of conduct and a full realization of human personality. The Shankara philosophy is an optimistic view of life, an ethical code of conduct and a full realization of human personality. Shankara never refutes all these things. He never rejects all those things. That means he accepts the world Vyavahara. That is why he accepts along with in the Satta, Paramarthika Satta and Vyavaharika Satta. So Vyavaharika Satta, it doesn't mean that it is unreal. It is real to some extent. That is the thing. Apart from his metaphysical view of life, Shankara has also subscribed to sociological and sociological outlook with reference to social order and moral behavior. The approach to the spiritual state of eternal existence in thought and intellect. Hence, the moral life, which is the only means of the intellectual development of the individual, cannot be and should not be forsaken altogether. Shankara says that performance of all acts is dependent upon right conduct, dharma. A man cannot be entitled to the performance of such acts, these things. Right conduct is an end in itself to be attained by man, and as such has no direct bearing upon actions. Its influence is felt at the time of appearance of the results of those actions. So, Shankara does not consider morality to be self-contained only. Morality is only not something, thing of an individual only, not individual approach or individual base. He says that right conduct has the absolute as well as the relative value. Both, he says. The acceptance of the duties meant for different stages of life proves Shankara's emphasis on the adoption of ethical life as the necessary means for the attainment of liberation on the part of individual. Hence, Shankara in his commentaries on Upanishads states that an aspirant has to take both paths of action and renunciation co-jointly. He says that it is only action. He says that the path of action and renunciation should go together. The virtues like self-control, charity, compassion, etc. are the means of attainment of true knowledge. These virtues have also been regarded by him, by Shankara, to be helpful for abhyudaya or prosperity. The ethical principles, which are the outcome of intellect, are not only conducive to the worldly prosperity, but also the right means of the attainment of true knowledge, ending in liberation. the final emancipation. Man's intellect, which is at the root of his material and social progress, is a wonderful instrument at his disposal. Only through this one can follow the ideal nishkama karma without any longing for its results. This attempt from each individual in the society brings equilibrium of mind and peace and harmony in the society. So Shankara accepts action in his philosophy as a powerful means for the attainment of supreme knowledge. Viveka Chudamani, in Viveka Chudamani, Sri Shankara states that Karmana jayade bhakrihi, bhakriya jnanam prajayate, jnanar sanjayate mokshaha, iti vedartha nishchaya. Karma is the root cause of jnana and moksha. So without karma you cannot do anything. So the concept on towards his vision of dharma and karma, which I want to explain here, that is being deliberate. Even statement in Upanishads, there are several statements in the several parts of the Upanishads, but in one place I want to quote the Prajapati.
Recording stopped.
Even statements in Upanishads on Prajapati and his...
1 minute. So 1 minute.
Recording in progress.
Yes. Can I do? Hello?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Even statement in Upanishads on Prajapati and his sons are seen interpreted by Shankara more convincingly. There are several people interpreted it, but Shankara's interpretation is more convincing in the spirit of ethical codes. Upanishad says that Prajapati had 3 types of children: gods, men and devils. Shankara argues that the entire story is symbolical and gods are men only with lack of self-control, and men, those are greedy, are devils. Men injuring other fellows, they are called devils. Hence, the instruction of Prajapati to practice self-control, charity and compassion, compassion, that is to gods, men and devils. These are to gods, men and devils respectively by Prajapati, are the advice given to the humanity as a whole. So, these 3 types of people, they have to undergo this austerity. According to Shankara, the aim of Vedanta is to bring the identity of individual self with the Supreme Self. It is not something to be achieved, since immortality is the very nature of the self. It is only a realization. It is only a realization. It is not something to be achieved from outside. It is already there, already within. It is only an unveiling, that's all. According to Shankara, a man needs prohibitions and injunctions while he identifies his self with his body. That is very important. While he identifies his self with his body, he needs prohibitions and injunctions. Several advices from ethical point of view are given by Shankara in this state of life, apart from prohibitions and injunctions. The practice of celibacy, austerity, truthfulness, control of senses, and non-injury are auxiliaries in all the life stages. Not only in one stage, in all stages, these are auxiliaries. The life of spirit is undoubtedly the life of fullness and perfection. It must necessarily lead to the progress of the individual as well as that of the society. Not only of individual, of the society also, both from the material and the spiritual point of view. Shankara's ethics is representative of Indian cultural traditions based on Upanishadic thought and based on reality, and is spiritual and humanistic in nature, and accepts liberation as the ultimate value. Being, consciousness, and bliss are not related to one another. In the case of a lotus of deep blue color, the word deep is an adjective in the blue color. The word being, on the contrary, is not adjectival to consciousness, nor consciousness to bliss. They are all adjectives to the self. So, Satyam Jnanam Anandam, Satyam Jnanam Satta Chitta Ananda. So, these attributes we are talking, they are all adjectives to the self. Hence, they directly refer to the self. They are not synonymous in nature. Refer to the self. Each of them independently expresses the full nature of the self. It may be asked, why is then the use of three different words? The answer is that these non-synonymous, that is what I told you, they are non-synonymous, and these non-synonymous words signify that the self is not their opposites. So this is very important. The most significant feature of Shankara Vedanta is the advocacy of the doctrine of Brahman, that is pure consciousness, as ultimate reality. The Brahman is the ultimate reality. On account of its being all pervasive and all comprehensive, it is non-dual, devoid of all attributes and forms. We give several attributes, but really Brahman is non-dual, devoid of all attributes and forms. Brahman, which has no attributes, appears as if it is entered with the attributes on account of its limiting adjuncts, just as light, which has no form, appears to be entered with different forms because of the objects which it illuminates. Similarly, Brahman itself is unitary but appears manifold, even as one sun gets reflected diversely in different pots containing water. Thus, reality in itself in Nirguna Brahman, but as a concession, reality in itself is Nirguna Brahman, but as a concession to empirical consciousness, Sri Shankara also accepts the validity of the worldly process, that is Loga Vyavahara. Thus, he draws a distinction between, that is, as I told you, the Paramarthika Satta and the Vyavaharika Satta to accommodate both unity and multiplicity, Ekatva and Anekatva. That is why these two, Paramarthika Satta and Vyavaharika Satta, has been accepted as doctrines in his philosophy. But the benefit of the unity, it has no existence. That is very important. The multiplicity is no way less real or less significant in as much as it is one with unity. Multiplicity is one with unity. So it is not less, or it is no way less real or less significant in as much as it is one with unity. The entire world is as an adhyasa on the Brahman. So it is not, that is why Sarvangalyudam Brahma, Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati, such Upanishadic expressions are there available. The multiplicity, so it is one with unity, but benefit of the unity, it has no existence and no significance because it has no essence or existence outside the unity. From the above account of the nature reality, it follows that for Shankara, Brahman is the world ground, the soul and whole cause of the world. It is the sole and whole cause of the world. Brahman, conceived as Ishvara, is both the efficient and the material cause of the world. The world has its origin and sustains as reabsorption in Brahman. World creation is just a leela without involving any effort on the part of Brahman. Evolution and involution are like folded and spread out states of cloth respectively. When same one cloth is when it is folded and when it is spread, these two different states of cloth, it is like that. This evolution and involution are like folded and spread out states of cloth respectively. The truth is that the world is not separate from the Brahman and it has no independent existence. The world is an effect, but the effect is only an appearance of cause, which is the only reality. According to Shankara, the manifold and variegated world is real, but it has only a derivative reality. Reality. It is empirically real, but intrinsically not real. And hence, it is characterized as mithya, not as a maya. It is mithya. Mithya and maya are different things. That is relatively real. It is relatively real. The world of experience is a sphere of relativity, which is neither unreal nor ultimately real. Sadasad Vilakshana. So, when it is said that the world has no existence, it only means that it has no absolute existence. The world has no existence means the world has no absolute existence. It ever changing and it may, today it is there, tomorrow it may perish. So it is only, it means that it has no absolute existence. It is the ultimate reality as experienced by us. Thus, all the things are being of the world are our apprehensions of one and the same absolute. Whatever see in the world, that are the different forms of the Brahman only. All these, Sarvam Ghalyudam Brahma, all these are Brahman, which is identified par excellence. All are real, though relatively. In world, all are real, but relatively. According to Shankara, all finite selves are nothing but appearances of Brahman. All individual cells, they are appearances of Brahman. Just like when your form is being reflected in a mirror. The relation between them and Brahman is therefore that of absolute identity. It is not different. It is the same one. Strictly speaking, we cannot talk of any such relation because in one and the same indivisible Brahman, but owing to the particular adjuncts caused by avidya, the one unitary Brahman appears as it were to be broken up into the self. Difference is the universal Brahman, the whole aggregate of individualizing body organs and mental functions, which in our worldly experience distinguishes and separates one self from the other. And this is the offspring of avidya, and as such it is unreal. The self which is reality, the self which in reality is pure consciousness, non-active, infinite, etc., becomes as it were an agent and an enjoyer. It is only when the adjuncts are removed by the right knowledge, the real knowledge of its true nature, final emancipation takes place. The real realization comes at that when you dawn in your mind at that time. Then it schemes in its original nature, which amounts to annihilation of its finite existence and finite nature. Tattvajnana-paryandam evameva bhavishyati. Among the threefold parts, karma, bhakti and jnana, Shankara recognizes jnana alone as the direct means to moksha. The discriminative knowledge of the real form, the real from the unreal, the discriminative knowledge of the real from the unreal is the sole cause of release. That is the crux of the entire discussion. Ethical discipline and devotion to God are only accessories. So, discriminative knowledge of the real from the unreal, that is the real, that is what we call the final emancipation. It is named in, there are several synonyms for that. So, ethical discipline and devotion to God are only accessories. Since bondage is due to ignorance of the real nature of the self, true knowledge alone can bring about release. Karma and bhakti may help us in urging to know the real. They may urge you and they will support you in all sense, but that is not the main instrument for moksha. The main instrument for moksha, the main cause is jnana. So, karma and bhakti may help us in urging to know the real and may equip us for the knowledge by purifying our mind. Karma and bhakti, they may purify our mind, and purification is very important. Karmana jayade bhakti, bhaktya jnanam prajayade, in there it is well explained. The purification of the mind is very important in this process. So, by purifying our mind, but ultimately it is knowledge which by destroying ignorance can enable us to be one with the real. One with the real, that is with Brahman. The knowledge of Brahman is Brahman itself. Shruti says, Brahmavid Brahmaiva bhavati. Shankara employed all the three grounds of Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava to refute and repudiate all those systems of metaphysics which were not harmony with the Vedantic thoughts. With these humble observations on Shankara, on different aspects of problems of communication, and also how Shankara addresses the self, the Maya, and also observations on ethics, Shankara's observations on ethics, his vision on that, all these things have been put into, and I have made a humble attempt to explore in Shankara philosophy, and with these humble presentations, I beg to remain. I thank one and all those who had attended the entire program from the beginning and patient enough to attend the program, and I thank one and all those who are in the online platform. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryandam Vande Guru Parambaram. Namaskara.